Posted by you/George Orwell_girl. When I was younger, I had a very good relationship with my dad. My parents divorced when I was an infant, but I spent weekdays with my mom and weekends with my dad. My dad and I were like best friends, and we had a simple routine every weekend where we get 5 Redbox movies to watch, go fishing, play soccer, and bike to this little secret playground near the zoo. Another thing I was used to was my dad always having new girlfriends who never lasted more than 2 weeks. The only one who stayed longer, a woman I really liked who lasted 2 years, left my dad when I was 10. But my relationship with my dad remained the same until I was 12 and he met his now wife. This woman has 2 kids, one older and one younger than me. They moved into my dad's apartment after only 2 weeks. My room was already small, but my tiny mattress and 3 small plastic drawers were shoved into the corner to make space for the daughter's bunk bed and dresser. Before I knew it, they started putting my bed in a closet when I wasn't visiting and often forgot to take it out at all. When my dad moved into a bigger house, the older sister got her own room while I had to share one with the younger sister every weekend. The 3 small drawers I had soon became just one because the little sister wanted the other 2 for her toys. Slowly, I started visiting my dad less and less. Then everything went especially wrong when my dad got his girlfriend pregnant after 1 year. They got married, and I didn't find out for a whole month because he didn't even tell me. I also didn't know my baby half-sister was born until weeks after she came home from the hospital. To make his new family happy, he started spoiling them and stopped paying child support for my mom and me. His wife is a jobless gold digger who only cooks, cleans, and shops. Her older daughter has her college paid for by my dad, and the younger daughter is the definition of a 10-year-old Sephora kid. As for my half-sister, she is still a toddler but is clearly spoiled and hates the word no. The routine I used to have with my dad is now dead. As for my stepdad, he's been with my mom since I was 5. Apparently, though I don't remember it, I once called him dad, and because of that, my dad told me I shouldn't love that man like a dad because he's not really my father. Supposedly, that's why I started acting like I hated my stepdad. I never knew why I felt that way about him since he'd never been anything but good to me, and in the last few years, I've felt much closer to him. He feels like the dad my birth father should try to be. Over time, my dad has started to treat me differently. He rants to me about his political beliefs and conspiracy theories about aliens and other things. He also brags about his new business and new family, and if I ever try to share anything with him, he gets annoyed and shuts me down before continuing with his stories. It's like he now sees me as a buddy rather than his own daughter. Also, it was during these last few years that I learned the reason he and my mom divorced wasn't because they weren't right for each other but because my father cheated on my mom while visiting his family in Canada. I am now 15, and I have become a completely different person than the one my birth dad remembers. I no longer love the beach or soccer, now I love music, reading, and writing. I have written and published 2 books since 2022 and am currently working on the 3rd in my series. My stepdad supports my dreams and loves me so much that he brags about me to friends and family and calls me his daughter. My stepdad has a biological daughter who I love like a real sister, though she lives up north with her boyfriend, so I don't see her often. Still, I love them more than I love my birth dad and half-sister, to whom I'm actually related. My dad blames me for never calling, but because of how he's treated me lately, I don't feel like I owe it to him. I also go months without visiting him now because I no longer feel comfortable at that house, especially since the bed I sleep on there is literally considered their guest bed. In my birth dad's house, I am a guest. Because of all this, I resent my dad. I haven't told anyone about this, so no one is calling me a jerk, but I'm wondering if I am because my dad is in love with his new family, and I'm questioning whether it's wrong that I'm not happy for him. Am I the jerk? Update 3 months later. Hello, a few months ago, I made a post about how my dad has basically stopped treating me like his daughter now that he has a new family. Not much has changed since then, but here's an update anyway. Since my initial post, I've only visited my dad's house once, and it's clear that I'm nothing more than an uncomfortable guest there. I should start by saying that every time I go a few months without visiting, my dad tries to play innocent by calling me on Fridays to ask when he should pick me up. I never answer because he always calls when I'm in class or busy studying, so he ends up calling my mom instead. However, because he never asks me in advance, I usually have plans on weekends with my cousins or friends, or I need time to work on writing. I'm still working on my 3rd book, and it takes a lot of focus, which I can't get at his house. Actually, I'm just going to call him Eric now. Honestly, he hasn't been much of a dad figure to me compared to my stepdad. Anyway, it was my mom who decided I would go over to his house. Despite the fact that Eric hasn't paid child support in over 2 years and I hate going to his house, my mom says I should visit from time to time to keep him from getting the court involved. She confuses me, sometimes she says he's a deadbeat, but other times she says he's my loving dad who deserves my respect. However, under the circumstances, I'm pretty sure nothing would change even if I never visited him since he doesn't pay child support anyway. In fact, one Christmas, he bought a bunch of new gifts for his family, wrapped them up and everything, but weeks before Christmas, when I was visiting, he drove to Walmart so his wife could do groceries and handed me $200. He said, "Merry Christmas, buy yourself something, and the rest can be child support or whatever." I bought 2 books, but the rest of the money, which was supposedly child support, was nowhere near the amount he actually owes. I've told my mom that I would be happier if he lost custody of me and my stepdad adopted me, but she thinks that's too extreme and says, "He's still your dad. He deserves your respect and love." Now, about the weekend I visited him, from the minute Eric picked me up, all he talked about was his new family. He went on about the older sister and her boyfriend, the younger sister and her shopping, and my half-sister, who can now talk a little bit. I stayed silent the whole ride until he asked me a question about my school. When I answered, he got frustrated and launched into a conspiracy theory rant. I tuned him out for the rest of the drive after that. The rest of the weekend wasn't any better. The older sister did what she always does when I visit. She locked herself in her room and only came out when I left the house or when I was in the bathroom so she wouldn't have to talk to me. The younger sister had a friend over, and her friend had her stuff tossed on my bed and was sitting on it because it's the bed she sleeps in when she has sleepovers. Eric's wife did a poor job of hiding how bothered she was by my visit. More than once, she's been completely shocked that I was there because Eric didn't tell her, so she couldn't disagree. Also, most of the weekend consisted of Eric taking me and my half-sister to a playground so she could run around with her friends. I sat on a bench to read, but I didn't have much time to myself since Eric kept leaving and telling me to keep an eye on my half-sister, who is a wild and fussy kid. I am not a babysitter, and while I'm good with kids, that doesn't mean I enjoy putting my own time aside to look after them when they're not my responsibility. I had to spend 2 days in either pure chaos or discomfort, and I talked to my mom about not wanting to go over there anymore. She said that's fine and that she won't force me to go again, but since she said that before, I don't believe her. I don't really have anyone to talk to about this, and the whole situation is stressing me out because I don't remember my dad ever being as happy as he is now, and I still sometimes feel like I should be happy for him. I don't know what to do, and any advice on what I could do would be helpful. Everyone who's commented on my last post has said I'm not the jerk and that Eric isn't acting the way a dad should, but he still reaches out from time to time and says I'm his baby girl, who he loves. Honestly, I almost cry whenever he says that because it reminds me of how we used to be. Am I overthinking all of this or overreacting? What should I do? Am I the jerk here because I'm not happy for my dad? Second update 3 days later. Hello everyone, it's only been a couple of days since my last post. Since then, I've taken the advice most of you have given me and talked to my mom about how I don't want to keep being forced by her to visit Eric, my sperm donor, as many of you referred to him. Long story short, I'm not 100% sure she won't continue to send me over to Eric's house, but she did end up sending him long texts, chewing him out for not treating me right and telling him to step up and pay his child support. He didn't respond to her, so I followed some other advice and wrote him a long text myself, detailing how I feel about the way he's treated me over the last few years. The thing is, as soon as I sent that text, he called me to yell at me and accused me of being spoiled and overdramatic. He said it's my fault we don't have a relationship since I never visit or talk to him anymore, and because I mentioned the unpaid child support, he claimed I was only reaching out to him for money. I nearly cried during that phone call and ended up just hanging up on him. He also sent some angry texts to my mother. But later that day, he left a voicemail on my phone saying, "Money is kind of tight for me right now. I'm completely broke. You know I love you, right?" The thing is, I know that's a lie because I'm always seeing my younger stepsister make TikTok videos showing off the Sephora and other expensive stuff he buys her all the time. I think I'm done trying. Some of you suggested asking my stepdad for help, and I wish I could, but when I asked my mom again if he could adopt me, she said something that absolutely crushed me. Apparently, my stepdad himself said he doesn't feel like he should adopt me. My stepdad is a very kind and sympathetic man, but he's also extremely non-confrontational and thinks it would be like a slap in the face to Eric if he adopted me. Also, because I noticed some confusion in the comments on my last update, I want to clarify that the reason my parents divorced was because Eric cheated, but it wasn't with his current wife. My parents split up when I was still basically an infant, and Eric lived in Canada, where he jumped from girlfriend to girlfriend before moving down here and continuing the same pattern. When I was 12, he met and got his wife, Alejandra, pregnant and married her without telling me until a month after their courthouse wedding. Also, some of you ask how old I am. I'm 15. It feels ridiculous that I have this kind of stress at my age, and I can't really talk to anyone about it. I can't talk to my stepdad because he's always working, and I'm only ever with him when my mom is there too. I don't like talking to her because she always tells me that I'm too young to really feel the way I do. The last time I tried to discuss my mental health with my mom, I asked if I could start going to therapy, and she said that therapists are dumb and that I could just talk to her or pray to God if anything was wrong. I'm not super religious, and talking to her about anything serious makes me deeply uncomfortable. It's not that I don't love her, she is my mom, after all, but she's pretty intense and intimidating. My dad hasn't reached out to me again since his voicemail. Frankly, I don't even want to think about him for a long while. If he suddenly realizes how badly he screwed up with me and apologizes, then maybe I'll consider trying to rebuild our relationship. As for my stepdad, he may not want to adopt me, but he still calls me his daughter, never just his stepdaughter, and I truly feel loved by him. I love his parents like they're my own grandparents, and his whole family is so warm and loving. I might make another update if anything else happens, but for now, I'm just going to focus on school and my books. Maybe now that I understand that Eric doesn't really care that much about me anymore, I can finally focus on finishing my third book. I dedicated my first book to him, and I honestly don't regret it. I dedicated that book to the dad he used to be. It's not like he'll ever read it since he doesn't think it's smart that I want to be a writer, but I don't care, I'm done. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice and reassured me that I wasn't the jerk. I feel so much better with your support. Third update 1.5 weeks later. I just want to say thank you all for your support and advice. There were a lot of people asking similar questions, and it was a bit overwhelming, so I didn't respond to any of them directly, but I will answer those questions here before I get to the actual reason for this update. So, a lot of you suggested that I talk to a school counselor or someone similar. The thing is, I do virtual homeschool, and my mom works from home a lot, so I'm honestly just a bit too scared to try that. Plus, even if I did talk to my counselor without my mom being around to hear, I really don't trust any adults to keep these kinds of things to themselves. I know that might sound a bit paranoid, but it's just how my brain works. A lot of you also suggested bringing up the therapy thing with my mom again, but I know for a fact that won't work. My mom really doesn't believe in therapy and thinks that praying to God or having her preach about the Bible to me will solve everything. As for my stepdad, I love him like a real father, and I see him as my true dad, even if he doesn't want to adopt me. But he's no help with the therapy issue either because he always just agrees with whatever my mom says to avoid arguments. But I'm doing fine right now, and I honestly think things are going to start getting better. I believe this because I'm pretty sure my mom is finally going to file for sole custody and court-ordered child support. One thing I should have made clear is that my parents sorted out their custody and child support agreement themselves when they divorced. The agreement was that I would spend weekends with my dad, and he would pay my mom $100 per week. I'm pretty sure my dad only stuck to that agreement to keep up appearances until he could complete his U.S. legalization process, since he used to be an immigrant from Canada. Once he was legalized, he stopped paying child support and started spoiling his new family. Anyway, I went to my dad's house last weekend. This time, my mom didn't force me. I actually decided I wanted to go because I wanted to give my dad one last chance. He picked me up from my mom's house, and we didn't even get down the street before we were fighting. I was excitedly telling him about a business idea I had where I could make book boxes and sell books with DIY necklaces and hand-painted bookmarks that match the book covers, but he told me my idea was stupid, unprofitable, and a waste of money and time. It was an hour-long drive to his house, and he was getting political or angry over every little thing I said. When I mentioned that I was thinking about applying to colleges like Harvard or the University of Chicago in the future, he started ranting about the dangerous Cuban and Mexican immigrants in Chicago and claimed that Harvard is a waste of time because it's just as good as any other college, but rich people go there, which is why it's so famous. I ended up yelling at him, telling him he can't act so high and mighty over non-white immigrants because he was also an immigrant not too long ago. I also never understand why my dad is always so racist about Hispanic people when both my mom and his current wife are Latinas. He went on one rant after another, and I was so sick of it that, instead of staying quiet like I usually do, I actually argued back. Because of that, my dad spent the whole weekend complaining about my bad attitude. I told my mom about all of this, and I think the final nail in the coffin that finally pushed her to want sole custody was when I told her about a rant my dad went on about the difference between men and women. I ended up memorizing it and writing down everything he said and texted it to my mom. I asked her not to talk to him about it, but she was furious with him. Here are some of the things he said. 99% of women want to latch onto rich men, nearly all women are greedy and unloyal, men don't like successful and independent women because they're prideful and bossy, it's more important for a wife to respect her husband than it is for him to respect her, it is wrong for wives to make more than their husbands, and so much more. Then he smiled and said, "But you're the exception, pretty girl." There was so much more that happened just last weekend, like him saying some of my guy friends don't count as real men because some of them are gay, and trying to tell me that my summer volunteering opportunity in the Dominican Republic is a bad idea since the people there are different, even though my mom's side of the family is from there. I won't list every annoying thing he did, but I'm finally done. This was his last chance, and he blew it. I just want to say that I'm pretty sure my mom isn't sending me over there anymore. She spent all morning looking for my birth certificate because she's wondering if she'll need it for court. She wants to get full custody and have my dad pay child support. At the moment, he owes a lot of back child support, and having him contribute financially would really help me prepare for college. I'll probably make another update if anything else happens. Hopefully, my next update will be after we've gone to court. Fourth update 3 months later. Hi everyone, it's been 3 months since my last post, and quite a lot of crappy stuff has gone down. First off, I want to say thank you to everyone who DM'd me and sent their support. I know I haven't answered a lot of you, but that's just because the number of messages is well over 50, and it's kind of overwhelming. But I appreciate all of you, especially those who reached out to say they've gone through similar things. You're all so strong, and I hope you're doing alright. So, for the actual update, my mom never took Eric to court. After 3 days of listening to my mom and Eric scream at each other over the phone, insulting each other, and hearing Eric rant about child support being stupid and a government con, he sent $200 to shut my mom up and now sends that same amount of money randomly. My mom lied about not forcing me to see him again. I remember we were in the car when Eric called on a random Friday to ask if I wanted to come over. I might have been a little cold, but after I said I didn't want to go, my mom got mad at me. I reminded her that she promised not to force me, but she yelled at me and guilt-tripped me into calling Eric back and agreeing to go. That weekend was awful. Eric tried to argue with me about his sexist beliefs, complained that I was being too sensitive about his inappropriate jokes and stories, and then we had a whole argument over women's workout clothes. For context on that last one, Eric and I saw a couple biking together in his neighborhood, and he commented that the woman was trying to get some because she was wearing leggings and a crop top. I told him she was just working out, and that the guy she was with was probably her boyfriend. Plus, she was at least 10 years younger than Eric, but he just said, that doesn't mean she's not trying to get more guys with those clothes. Women only wear workout clothes to attract men and get laid. I argued with him, but I eventually gave up when I asked, if I wear workout clothes to exercise and lose weight to be healthier, am I trying to get a man's attention? And he said yes. That was it. If I had any respect left for that man, it's now completely gone. He spent the whole weekend disrespecting and insulting his wife, and despite how awkward I feel around her, I wish I'd known what kind of person my dad was 3 years ago so I could have told her to leave him while she had the chance. No woman deserves a man as awful as my dad. But I now feel like I no longer have any father figure in my life, and here's why. A few weeks ago, I got into a bit of a debate with my mom about adopted kids. I told her that I didn't want to give birth as an adult and would rather adopt, but she said I shouldn't bring another person's dirty kids into my home and that it would be hard to love grandkids that don't look like me. I know it's kind of a weird conversation for a 16-year-old to have, but it came up anyway. When I asked for my stepdad's opinion, I discovered what's probably the real reason he doesn't want to adopt me. He told me that he doesn't think adopted kids can be loved the same way as biological kids. He said adopted children aren't as lovable, and I realized that despite calling me his daughter and talking about how much he loves me, he doesn't love me as much as his biological kids. I've lost all respect for him after this past weekend. There's a lot of stuff that happens in my family, and my mom tries to shield me from all of it, so my cousins are my only source of information. I spent the weekend with my oldest cousin, 21F, and another cousin, 20F, and I ranted to them about what my stepdad had said. After that, they told me something that made me feel more disgusted and betrayed than I've ever felt before. My stepdad cheated on my mom a few years back, and she stayed with him. The reason my mom divorced Eric was due to his infidelity, but she chose to forgive my stepdad and never told me about it, letting me continue to live with a man who did the same thing that Eric did to her. Eric's cheating ruined my life, and I don't think I can look at my stepdad the same way again. Before this past weekend, I was laughing with my stepdad and hanging out with him. Now, I'm glad my mom is having me spend time with my grandma because it gives me more time to process all of this before I have to see him again. I'm a junior in high school now, and I'm planning to work harder on online jobs, apply for scholarships, and do more so that I'm ready to get away from all of this as soon as I get to college. If anything else major happens, I'll update again, but this is it for now. I know I'm not the jerk, I'm just the one who has to deal with a ton of unfair crap.